Hi guys, not all politicians live in a fantasy world, but it can be safe to say that most do. And when they're presenting legislation or trying to change aspects of society, be it in general or specifically in the workplace, they are tending recently to move away from understanding the reality on the ground and instead listen to what think tanks have to say. Now, think tanks can be okay when it comes to high-level policy, but they generally don't understand the nuts and bolts. That's why you need to listen to people who do know that stuff. Here, Mick Lynch of the RMT union schooled Tory MPs at a parliamentary committee on the issue of driverless trains. Have a listen.
But if I can perhaps sum up, would you, on behalf of your members, ever accept driverless trains? And without you immediately saying no, say for instance a 50-year-old driver was offered severance pay for driverless trains to take place, say of, I don't know, $500,000. I'm not going into negotiations with you at this point, but would you put that to your drivers, or would you just dismiss that out of hand?
Well, we don't think it's safe to have driverless trains on the mainline railway, so you would have to spend more money than Kwasi Kwarteng has printed last week to bring in driverless trains in this country. The ability to detect cattle and sheep and people crossing, we can't even work out level crossings in this country. Network Rail have not got the infrastructure. We haven't got automatic signalling only on one route to Machynlleth, I think, at the moment. So you are decades and decades away from that becoming a question. And if you want to go up to the Highlands of Scotland and have a driverless train, you'll have a train that is stopped forever because there's no infrastructure and this government is not going to give it any investment, even towards getting a more efficient railway system. The only real new signalling projects you're getting are on things like HS1, and there are little piecemeal bits around the system. So
you admit it works on DLR?
Well, they are attended trains, and our members on DLR drive those trains as soon as they've lost coherence with the signalling system. So there is always a person on those trains. DLR has got exactly the same crewing requirement as a London Underground train. There's a person that is capable of driving that train on it and is responsible for the dispatch. So it's not true that there's a driverless train. The person on it is a qualified driver.
And there you go. Like, you can't get away from it. And I think it's interesting how he said here, you can't have this technology, not because it doesn't, well, in a sense he said it doesn't exist or it would require massive investment, but because the Tories don't want to spend money. Like, the Tories are saying, we want to have driverless trains, but we don't want to actually put our money where our mouth is. We don't actually want to invest in that. This technology costs money, and it takes time to be implemented. It needs to be tested, and you need to have, in the meantime, you need to have qualified drivers, sitting next to these systems to make sure that there isn't a crash, or that if the system has a problem, that they can take over. People tend to think that, and I remember when it came to the, and it seems to be this seems to be part and parcel of Conservative Party thinking. Technological solutions will fix all problems. And what I was talking about was, do you remember the Northern Ireland border? The border in Northern Ireland, the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg, who were saying, don't worry, we can have an electronic border. That was back in 2019. I would love for somebody to ask him about that technology. How is that technology progressing? 3 years later, how is it working? There is no technological solution to that. And the technology at the moment, yes, it is advancing, but it's extremely expensive. You need the infrastructure and you need government backing it. Private companies are not going to do it because it's a massive cost and they don't see it as feasible. So it relies on government to invest in this. And the Tories don't want to. It seems the Tories want to cut public spending. So they want driverless trains, they want new technologies, but they don't want to pay for it. And, rhetoric isn't going to change that. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.